Hello everyone, welcome to our channel. We know it's been a little while, it's been about a month since our last video, but we are finally back and ready to bring you more amazing content. First off, I just want to thank each and every one of you for your patience and support during this time. The messages, comments, and all your love really kept us going, and we couldn't be more excited to be here with another video for you all. If you're new to the channel or you haven't yet, make sure to hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of the exciting content we've got lined up next. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming. Now let's get started. Daredevil, Black Armor. Volume 3 previously in Daredevil Black Armor. The world believes Matt Murdock is dead. A new Daredevil, Jack Batlin, has taken up the mantle. But unknown to all, Jack and Matt are one and the same. With his true identity hidden once again, Daredevil has uncovered a sinister conspiracy. Baron von Strucker is plotting to kidnap New York's most vulnerable citizens. Daredevil, now the Baron's captive, must face his deadliest challenge yet. The damp, stale air of the underground tunnels suffocated Matt Murdock, his heightened senses picking up the metallic echoes of footsteps and whispers far ahead. The mole men, hideous, deformed creatures who dwelled in the city's forgotten depths, led him deeper into the labyrinth beneath Hell's Kitchen. Their claws dug into his arms as they dragged him toward his fate. Matt's fists itched to strike, but he was outnumbered and bound. He could hear the heartbeat of every captive echoing off the stone walls. Terrified, frantic, hopeless. Baron von Strucker's voice had echoed in his mind ever since his capture. The sadistic tyrant, a master of manipulation, had been pulling the strings from the shadows. And now, Matt was just another piece in his twisted game. They reached the underground cell, a makeshift prison where the stolen residents of Hell's Kitchen lay huddled together, bruised and beaten. As Matt was thrown inside, he quickly recognized two familiar faces, Juan and Randy Gillette, his longtime neighbors. Their eyes widened with shock. "Matt!" Juan whispered, running over to him. His voice cracked with disbelief. "I warned you! I told you! Baron von Strucker was planning something big. Now we're all trapped. He's using us for some twisted experiment. He forces us to fight for his amusement while his elite allies watch us suffer." Randy, her face pale and gaunt, stepped forward. "You should have been more careful," she hissed. "Now you're here. Just like the rest of us, he'll use you too." Matt's jaw tightened. "I couldn't leave Hell's Kitchen to fend for itself. I had to do something. As a lawyer, or as Daredevil, I protect the people I care about." As he surveyed the room, the weight of his friend's suffering gnawed at his soul. The cell was filled with others from the neighborhood, faces he knew well, some broken, some already resigned to their fate. Rage burned in his chest, and he knew what had to be done. Without a word, Matt retreated to a dark corner, stripping off his tattered clothes to reveal the familiar black armor underneath. The very symbol of the city's protector. But before he could finish gearing up, a voice broke through the silence, dripping with venomous sarcasm. "You think you can fight like that?" it sneered. "At least die with some dignity." Matt turned sharply, instantly recognizing the voice. Dr. Calvin Szabo. The mad scientist, infamous for his transformation into the monstrous Hyde, sat slumped in the shadows. His face was gaunt, his once manic eyes now hollow. Szabo chuckled, though there was no humor in it. "What are you doing here?" Matt demanded, fists clenched. Szabo leaned forward, the flickering light casting grotesque shadows across his face. "Von Strucker promised me power in exchange for my genetic research. I thought I could outsmart him, use him to further my work. Instead, he stole everything. My knowledge, my serum, everything. He's been using it to turn his soldiers into monsters. But when I refused to help any further, he threw me in here like the rest of you. Zabo's eyes flared with a sudden intensity. He's done this in other parts of the city, in other neighborhoods. He wants us to tear each other apart in this arena. When we die, he'll move on to the next. It's a never-ending cycle of violence. Matt felt the rage bubble up again, but he pushed it down. He had to stay focused. He had to lead. Turning to the others, Matt spoke with a calm, firm authority. Listen to me, all of you. His voice cut through the murmur of despair. The only way we're getting out of here is if we work together. Von Strucker wants us broken. He wants us scared. But we're stronger than that. If we unite, if we fight together, we can stop him. The room fell silent. All eyes were on Matt. Do you really think we can take on Von Strucker? Juan asked, his voice trembling. We don't have a choice, Matt replied, his voice steely. We either fight for our lives now, or we die in this cell, powerless. Randy stood beside Juan, fists clenched, her fear giving way to resolve. One by one, the captives rose to their feet, emboldened by Matt's words. Even Zabo, still seated, gave a slow nod of approval. Matt tightened the last strap of his armor, his senses sharpening, adrenaline surging through his veins. He was no longer just Matt Murdock. He was Daredevil, the protector of Hell's Kitchen. Let's fight, Matt declared, his voice echoing through the chamber. The air grew thick with anticipation as the captives, once broken and scared, now stood as an army, ready to take on whatever horrors awaited them in Von Strucker's twisted arena. In the dim, shadowy underground arena beneath Hell's Kitchen, Baron Von Strucker stood at the head of his opulent viewing platform, surveying the battlefield below. Seated beside him were some of the world's most influential and corrupt elites. Politicians, CEOs, and criminal masterminds, all waiting eagerly for the spectacle to begin. Their greedy eyes gleamed in the flickering torchlight. Von Strucker rose slowly, a malicious smile creeping across his face. Now, my esteemed guests, he began, his voice oozing with venom. It's time to purge Hell's Kitchen of its filth. Watch closely, for this is only the beginning. He raised his arm dramatically, and with a sharp command, he shouted, "Start the fight!" The mole men scrambled to obey, dragging the chained residents of Hell's Kitchen, alongside Matt Murdock, into the center of the blood-soaked arena. As they stumbled into the harsh light, the crowd above jeered, their anticipation rising. From his perch high above, Von Strucker's eyes locked onto Murdock, still disguised as Daredevil. He sneered, "Oh, Daredevil! Welcome to hell." The roar of the crowd swelled as two hulking figures, Von Strucker's elite henchmen, lunged at Murdock from the shadows. They struck fast, but Daredevil was faster. He sidestepped one, delivering a sharp elbow to the villain's jaw, sending him crumbling to the ground. The second lunged, but Murdock twisted, his senses guiding him perfectly. In a blur of motion, he flipped the attacker over his shoulder, slamming him into the dirt. Daredevil raised his head defiantly, locking eyes with Von Strucker. "Is that all you've got?" he taunted, his voice cutting through the silence. Von Strucker's smile faded, his lips curling into a snarl. "You want hell? I'll show you hell." With a snap of his fingers, the gates on the far side of the arena flew open, and dozens of Von Strucker's heavily armed henchmen charged forward. The mole men screeched from the stands, rattling their spears. The villains swarmed like a tidal wave, rushing toward Murdock and the terrified captives. "Fight for your lives!" Murdock roared, rallying the captives. He threw himself into the fray, fists flying as he cut through the wave of enemies with brutal efficiency. The residents of Hell's Kitchen fought beside him, their desperation lending them strength. But for every villain Murdock took down, 2 more took their place. Despite his skill, the overwhelming numbers began to take their toll. A club smashed into his ribs, sending him staggering. Another blow to his back dropped him to his knees. Blood trickled from his mouth as the ground tilted beneath him. One final strike to his head, and everything went black. The arena erupted in laughter and cheers as Von Strucker raised his hand. "Enough!" he commanded. The villain stepped back, and the mole men dragged Murdock's limp body across the dirt. "Take him to the cell!" Von Strucker barked, his voice filled with glee. "We'll deal with him later. For now, let the fight continue." As the mole men carried Daredevil away, the battle raged on, with Von Strucker's forces tearing into the remaining captives. But as Murdock was being hauled through the maze of tunnels, his mind began to stir, consciousness slowly returning. Matt's senses kicked in, his mind clearing. He heard the mole men's shuffling footsteps, their rough breathing, the distinct hum of electricity sparking from one of their weapons. It was Technospike, one of Von Strucker's deadliest enforcers. His electric whip crackled with energy as he marched beside them, savoring the thought of executing Daredevil. But Matt wasn't done yet. With a sudden burst of energy, Murdock twisted free of the mole men's grip, flipping backward in a move that caught them off guard. Before they could react, he lashed out with a precise kick, sending 2 of the mole men sprawling into the walls. Technospike sneered. "You're not going anywhere," he hissed, his whip snapping through the air like a bolt of lightning. He flung it toward Murdock, but Daredevil was quicker. Catching the whip mid-strike, Matt yanked it from Technospike's hand, then turned to the weapon against him. The whip cracked, wrapping around Technospike's neck, sending a surge of electricity through his body. His eyes rolled back as he collapsed, unconscious, alongside the fallen mole man. Breathing heavily, Matt tore through the tunnels, moving with silent precision toward Von Strucker's command center. Once there, he stripped off his civilian clothes and donned the sleek black Daredevil armor hidden inside. But before leaving, he spotted something else. Dr. Calvin Szabo's Hyde serum. He grabbed the vial, knowing it could change the tide of battle. Back in the arena, Von Strucker's laughter echoed as he waded into the battlefield himself. His brute strength was unmatched, and the Hell's Kitchen residents fell before him like wheat before a scythe. Each punch, each strike, was designed to crush their spirits, to show his guests that no one could defy him. He grabbed a fallen captive and sneered, "Now it's your turn!" He tossed the man aside, turning his gaze toward the audience. Suddenly, a familiar voice cut through the chaos. "Strucker!" Von Strucker whirled around, eyes wide with shock. There, standing tall in his black armor, was Daredevil, returned from the dead. "You should have stayed down," Von Strucker growled. Without hesitation, Daredevil lunged at him, his fists crashing into Von Strucker's face with a force that sent the tyrant stumbling back. But Von Strucker recovered quickly, his fury erupting. He roared and drove his fist into Daredevil's stomach, sending him sprawling onto the ground. The crowd watched in stunned silence as Von Strucker advanced, his foot slamming down onto Daredevil's chest. "You'll die like the rest of them!" he snarled. Gasping for breath, Daredevil looked up and saw Dr. Calvin Szabo standing on the sidelines, watching the battle. Summoning his last ounce of strength, Daredevil tossed the vial of Hyde serum toward Szabo. "Doctor," he wheezed, "this is for you." Szabo's eyes flickered with hesitation, but then, with a sudden determination, he grabbed the serum and injected himself. His body convulsed violently as he transformed into the monstrous Hyde, his muscles bulging and skin darkening. With a roar, Hyde charged toward Von Strucker, grabbing him from behind. Von Strucker's grip on Daredevil loosened as Hyde lifted him off the ground like a rag doll. The tyrant struggled, but Hyde's raw power was overwhelming. Daredevil, seizing the opportunity, crawled to his feet and shouted to the captives, "Run! Now!" As Von Strucker's elite guests fled in panic, Hyde and Von Strucker clashed in a titanic battle, each punch shaking the ground beneath them. Daredevil, bloodied, but still standing, limped toward the tunnels, his escape clear. Von Strucker roared in fury, freeing himself from Hyde's grip, but it was too late. Daredevil was already gone, leading the remaining captives to safety. As Von Strucker barked orders to his mole men and villains to give chase, chaos reigned in the arena. And the episode ends here to be continued in the next episode. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. We really appreciate you sticking around to the end. Your support means the world to us, and it's what keeps this channel going. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps out. And if you're new here or haven't subscribed yet, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of the exciting content we have coming up. There's a lot more in store, and we can't wait to share it with you. See you in the next one.